It has been a few weeks since the release of the all-new RodeCaster Pro II, but on initial release, the lack of custom routing really was a problem for a few. But Rode has recently added those, so let's see if the RodeCaster Pro II is finally perfect for streamers. Let's get into it. Now, just a little disclaimer before we get started, I am using the beta software of the RodeCaster Pro II, meaning that everything I show here can still change and can be improved upon, so just bear that in mind. And if you have a RodeCaster Pro II, you can also join the beta program with the link down in the description below. And then lastly, I just have to commend Rode for actually releasing all these software updates as quickly as they are, which improves bugs, improves general stability, and adds new features. For example, in version 1.0.6, they've now added the ability to press the power button twice to turn the device off, as well as allowing you to press the rotary button to switch between your monitoring and your virtual devices, which is also really good. And then they have a few other general improvements on the device and a few bug fixes as well. But be sure to check out their release notes that they do release on their website itself. Now, in my years of live streaming, I have used a bunch of different audio interfaces, with all having their pros and their cons, but the one thing that I've loved about most of them is the fact that they allow you to have custom routing, which allows you to choose which audio sources goes where, and just giving you more flexibility with your audio setup. Now, Rode has recently added that with their version 1.0.5 update, which is now live to the public, which allows you to add custom routing for certain sources, which is something that a lot of people have been requesting. But the question is this now really perfect for streamers? And I have to say yes, but also no. So let's run through how you actually set up custom routing, how everything works, and what is the features that I would still like to see from Rode and how they can actually improve this device even more. Now, firstly, to reach the custom routing settings, you have to go into your settings screen, outputs, and then routing. And then you'll see the top menu, you have your audio sources, which you can change between, and then they'll each have a main mix, a mix minus, and a custom routing below them. Now, main mix is really everything. It just takes all of your audio sources and pushes them out to that source, and that is usually what you would want to use for streaming. So that would be the device that you push through to OBS or whatever streaming software that you use, as that will then have all of the audio sources incorporated into that one mix, and you don't have to add any more audio sources. It's just that one, and you control everything on the RodeCaster itself. Now, of course, if you don't want that for your stream, then of course you can still go into the mix minus or the custom routing, but we'll get into those in the next few steps. Now, next is mix minus, and what that really means is that is the entire mix minus that source. So for example, if you have a Bluetooth call that you want to set up with someone, you might use the mix minus, as you don't want the person on the other end of the Bluetooth call to go back and hear themselves again. So you want the entire mix minus their voice, or if you're in a Discord call with people and you want them to hear the entire mix apart from themselves, then you would also use the mix minus feature. So the best way to think about mix minus is everything except for that source. So in this situation, if you want to know whether or not you should choose mix minus or not, remember, do you want them to hear everything except for themselves, or do you just want them to hear certain things? Because if you just want them to hear certain things, then the custom routing option is going to be the one for you. And then lastly is the custom routing option, which allows you to really customize the audio sources that goes out to that certain source, which is really awesome as it gives you a lot of flexibility with your audio sources on the RodeCaster Pro II. Now, for me, I use custom routing on Discord calls, especially since I use Discord calls mainly to play with friends. So I don't want them to hear my game, anything else that's going on my PC. I just want them to hear my voice, and that is it. So if you take a look at my communication tab, I do have it on custom, and then I only have mic 1 selected. Now you can add samples if you want to be able to play sample sounds through there, or if you want them to hear your voice changing effects, because those also run through the sample effects. Just make sure to actually enable those as well if you want to have some fun while you're on Discord calls. Now for me, I removed everything else because I don't want them to hear anything else, especially not the game that we are playing, since that will actually run back to them, and that can be a little bit distracting. And the fact that Rode actually added this is a real big lifesaver. Now, another thing that's great about the custom loop is it allows you to control what audio sources really goes to each of these sources. So if you want your USB 1 only to send out USB 1 and you want to have more flexibility in your audio sources, then you can do that as well. If you have Bluetooth calls that you do on a podcast, for example, and you want listeners to be able to listen or hear videos or whatever it is that you're going to be playing through there, you can add those or remove those depending on what you want or what you need. And you can also allow them to hear certain mics or not hear certain mics. But the bigger question is this now perfect for streamers? And is this what streamers really want and need? And honestly, I have to say this is about 80% of the way there. And there's still a few things that I personally would like to see. And that is something that has been prominent in most other audio interfaces, especially aimed towards streamers. And this feature is the ability to have different audio sources on your PC itself, which you can then use to assign different audio sources to from apps or your games itself. For example, a music channel and a game channel. Now, what I mean by this is having the physical game, music, browser, whatever other channel that you want on your PC itself, which you can then use to assign, let's say, Spotify to. So if you have a music channel, you can assign Spotify to go through that output. And then once you have that output, you can assign that output to your RodeCaster Pro II on one of the faders. Now, of course, you can connect a second USB to your PC, which will then allow you to assign any sort of app to USB 2, which you can then, of course, control and have its own custom looping and everything else. But I would love to have more options available, as that will allow you to split your audio sources even more and have more flexibility with all the audio sources that you control. This is something that I really found was really useful with other audio devices, since in a live streaming situation, you have many different sounds that you need to worry about. You have friends coming through Discord calls, you have your games, you have your music, you have different other sound effects, and all of those audio sources do tend to differ in loudness, and having the ability to split them all up and control them individually really makes it easy to have a more uniform and more pleasant audio experience for your viewers. Now, even though custom routing is a really good step in the right direction, I'd really love to see them add these virtual channels in the future, as that will then make the RodeCaster Pro II perfect for streamers. And of course, the last thing that could make this a little better is a non-pro or a light version, which would then just be a smaller device, less inputs, less faders, and just make it a little bit more cheaper and a little bit more accessible for more people, as this is still a premium device and something that not a lot of people will have the ability to actually invest in. Now, if you want to check out more RodeCaster Pro II videos, click the link over here. And also remember to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And then, as always, until next time, cheers.